hardwood floors, echoes of our family lore.
Welcome back, Keys to the Gym fans. This is the coach, and I'm here with the PG, and we could not be any more excited about what we have in store for you here on this week's episode 6 of Keys to the Gym. As we told you from the beginning, we would be bringing some guests in periodically, and this is guest number 2, and we are super excited to share a story with you today. PG, what do you have to add?
I'm just stoked for this conversation. So Excellent. All right, folks, before we bring our guest in here, let me do just a little bit of background. The guest that we have with us, his name is Scott Allen, and he is the head coach of the girls varsity basketball program and director of the girls basketball program at St. Paul's, the 6th Catholic School up in Chantilly, Virginia. And Coach, you're going to hear more about his story here and his path as a Vermont native, but Virginia as his home in the last 20 years. Coach Allen joined St. Paul's the 6th, or PVI, as those in the basketball world refer to them as, has built this program into an absolute powerhouse. Joined PVI in 2002. Developed a national level girls basketball program. They compete in 2 athletic leagues, the Washington Catholic Athletic Conference. And if you're close followers of girls basketball, this is one of the top girls high school basketball leagues in the country in the Northern Virginia, DC area. They also participate in the Virginia Independent Schools Athletic Association. The WCAC is considered the most competitive program in the country. Comprises of the top Catholic high schools from Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. And the VISAA is the leading independent high school league in the Commonwealth of Virginia. The Lady Panthers have won 16 consecutive Virginia Independent School Athletic Division I state championship titles and crowned state champions 23 times in the last 25 years. Okay, let me read that again. They have been crowned state champions 23 times in the last 25 years. The Lady Panthers have also won 3 consecutive WCAC championships and 4 national level tournaments. PVI finished as the runner-up in the 2021 Geico National Championship game and ended the past 10 seasons nationally ranked. Coach Allen's philosophy is a true champion, excels in the classroom and on the basketball court. The program takes great pride in having accomplished student athletes. The team's cumulative grade point average is 3.1 out on a 4.0 scale, and more than 60 PVI players from Coach Allen teams have played basketball in college, and all of his players have pursued academic studies at the collegiate level. Coach Allen is a passionate developer of student athletes and focused on advancing the sport of basketball. He created the annual Art Turner Memorial Tip-Off Showcase. The showcase is a 3-day event which has evolved into the leading tip-off classic in the country. Art Turner Memorial attracts nationally ranked girls basketball teams and college coaches from across the country. Coach Allen has also created the DC Metro College Showcase. Showcase is sanctioned by the NCAA and gives players an opportunity to demonstrate their basketball skills in front of college coaches and scouts. This annual event is one of the top recruiting showcases on the East Coast. During the summer months, not surprisingly, you're going to see Coach Allen in the gym. Organizes girls and boys basketball camps, the camps that are focused on fundamentals and advanced game skills. In February of 2023, Coach Allen was inducted into the PVI Athletic Hall of Fame. In February 2024, Coach Allen picked up his 500th career win and has been nationally recognized for his accomplishments. He was the Virginia Independent School Athletic Association Virginia State Division I Girls Basketball Coach of the Year in an unprecedented 10 times. So, with that, PG, I think we're going to go ahead and get our conversation started with Coach Scott Allen of St. Paul's the 6th. So I'm an upstate New York native. I grew up in Schenectady.
I know where I live. I'm from Fairhaven, Vermont, right next to Whitehall and Lake George. Yeah. I just went to the log jam. So.
Okay.
Yeah. And you had the pleasure of playing for Copel?
I did.
I don't know if that's a pleasure, but.
Yeah, Coach took over. So I've known Coach Copel for a long time. So Coach was one of my dad's first assistants at Union College. going way back to the mid 90s. This would be 95, 96 was probably I guess that may have been the first year my dad was the head coach there.
Really? Yeah.
So that's the first time I got introduced to coach. And then things came full circle. I guess it would have been my rising sophomore year when he took over. We had a coaching change. So yeah, he had a tough task of trying to get things going back in the right direction for us there at Hartwick, but eventually got it in the right place.
Did you play with Eric Wilson?
So Eric would have been before me. Right. So I got to meet Eric. He would come, obviously alums would come back, but it was before me. Yeah. Yeah.
Eric's a good friend of mine. Yeah. We grew up playing basketball against each other because I graduated from Castleton. I went to Castleton. I finished at Castleton. I played there 1 year. I played for Dave Blake. And then, so I met Copel through, when I was the JV coach at Fairhaven and assistant varsity coach. We had Todd Roberts, who went to St. Michael's. Okay. And, Copel was the assistant at St. Michael's. So that's how we got to know him. Yeah.
Sure.
Long time ago.
Yeah. Basketball world's not a big one, is it? When you make your way around.
Yeah, it certainly is a small world. I mean, it's amazing the amount of people that you come across that basket. I mean, I'm from a town of, 2,300 people that doesn't even have a stoplight. And you just meet so many people, like even Stan Van Gundy was the coach at freaking Castleton, and goes back there often. And he was just inducted in the Hall of Fame. And a lot of, it's awful small, but like you said, it's a big world, but a small world.
Yeah. Did you know, was coaching the thing? Obviously you're a teacher as well, but your path in basketball, was that something that you had thought about?
Originally I was supposed to be a race car driver. Okay. Believe it or not. I grew up, my dad was a truck driver and he was a race car driver on dirt. We had a local speedway down the road from my house called Devil's Bowl. And we'd go there every Sunday. And then we would go to Friday, Albany, Saratoga and Malta, New York. And then we would go to Fonda. And then Sunday we would go to Devil's Bowl. So that's what I grew up doing. And that was my passion. I loved it. We became very dedicated to that sport. And we met a lot of people, and that's what I was supposed to do. I mean, I would ride. My father was, like I said, an over the road trucker, and I'd ride with him all the time. And in front of our house, he built a racetrack, and I had these Honda Odysseys, and I didn't have any fear when I was about 10 years old, 11 years old. And I would go down there and I'd go as hard as I could. And one time I flipped upside down, and, that was a little bit of a wake up call. My father used to tie my hands inside the Odyssey so that when I flipped, my hands wouldn't fly out. So he would take rope and tie my hands in. Well, it happened again. And the next day they were for sale. And my mother handed me a basketball and said, figure this out. So that's kind of how that all happened. And that was, I was a guy that would ride around, our town with 7 or 8 basketballs in the back of his truck and go look for some place to play. And that's kind of how we all started going from there. And that's where it went from there.
That's terrific. That's terrific. So Coach, tell us a little bit about your path from Vermont to where you are today in Virginia and a couple of those stops along the way.
Yeah, it's quite the path. Like I said, I grew up in Fairhaven, Vermont, small town, Slaters, absolutely the best place in the world to grow up because you didn't really know anything else. So grew up there. Everybody kind of knew each other. It's like a Hallmark movie. And I was introduced to basketball in 5th grade. I had some unbelievable coaches in elementary school that just kind of built a love for the game for me. And then in the high school, I was fortunate to play with some really, really good players. And then, I kind of fell in love with the game. I just loved the game. I loved playing it. I couldn't play it enough. I wanted to go play and play and play and play and play. So I started, working basketball camps at Castleton. Me and actually, like we were just talking about, Eric Wilson, when we were seniors in high school or going to be a senior in high school, we started working Bob Sherlock's camp out at Castleton and just loved to be able to relay what I knew to help players become better. Because I was, very fortunate to have great coaches and to give back to the game is what I wanted to do. And I really loved doing it. And then from there, I went to Plymouth State. I was supposed to play. I didn't end up playing. That's when my freshman year in college, I started coaching at Fairhaven. When I was 18 years old, I was assistant JV coach, assistant varsity coach. And then I transferred back to Castleton to play. And when I wasn't playing at Castleton, I would once again be the JV, help out the JV team, help out the varsity team, and just absolutely loved it. And then I just, I kind of got tired of, I needed change. One of my best friends moved to Myrtle Beach, which is like moving to the moon. And it was a completely different world. I absolutely loved it. And I remember picking up the phone and calling the women's basketball program at Coastal Carolina, a lady named Gina Markland. She was the head coach and also the assistant athletic director. And she had one full-time assistant. She said, "Can you send me your resume?" I said, "What's a resume?" I had no idea what it was. I thought it was some French food or something. So I sent her kind of a background on what I did. And we started an AAU team called the Fairhaven Blue Thunder before I left to go to Myrtle Beach. And it was a lot of fun. I basically started it from the ground up. It was all the Fairhaven kids. And we just absolutely had the best time and had a blast playing. Then I moved to Myrtle Beach and met Gina. And she basically, talked to me and realized that what my passion was for the game, and put me in charge of tape exchange, put me in charge of recruiting. There's times I ran the weight room. There's times I ran skill development. Helped out at practices, was on the road. And I was 19 years old. Getting in-state tuition was my pay, but all she had was one full-time assistant. And she was also, like I said, the assistant athletic director. So made a lot of connections through tape exchange, went to the Final Four in 1996. Met a guy named Don Meyer, who became one of my mentors. Heard him speak at the women's Final Four, and I was like, I want to be that guy. Wherever he goes, I want to learn from him. So I moved to Nashville for about a month and a half, and I worked every David Lipscomb basketball camp for Don Meyer and Jim Foster's basketball camp at Vanderbilt, and just met so many people. And then ended up moving back home to Vermont and becoming the JV coach that had been there for a long time. Had retired from coaching, and Coach Prevost, who's one of my mentors, the legendary coach at Fairhaven, asked me to come back and be the JV coach. That was 1996 and 97. And it was absolutely probably one of the best, if not the best basketball experiences of my 30 years in coaching. I was a JV coach, and I was the assistant varsity coach, and we had an unbelievable team, and we ended up winning the state championship. And it was like Hoosiers, after every game, the entire town would shut down, before the game would be packed. It would be sellout. And then we would all go to the local watering hole after the game and have a good time there. And we'd do it all over. And it was just so much fun. And we won the state championship. And then we got offered the opportunity to be the Alhambra coach, which is the top players in the state of Vermont against the top players in the state of New Hampshire. It was Coach Prevost and I, and it was the first time that Vermont hadn't won in a long time. So we went over to what's like a training camp, and we had an absolute blast doing that. And we ended up beating New Hampshire for the first time in a long time. Oh. And then I was the JV coach again at Fairhaven for another year. And then Coach Prevost got done, and I became the varsity coach at 23 years old at Fairhaven. And, we had a pretty good, it was an okay year. We didn't win a lot of games, but I had a great group and just absolutely loved coaching them. We were in a quarterfinal. We were the 13 seed and almost upset like the number 2 seed on the road. And that was quite the learning experience for me. And then our school went Division I, and I graduated college, and I was just kind of tired of time to do something else. So I moved to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, moved back, and became an assistant coach at Francis Marion University on the men's side for 2 years from a connection from Coach Meyer, and was there for 2 years, and then got done. I wasn't feeling the college thing. I was living in Myrtle Beach, going back and forth to Florence, South Carolina, which is about an hour trip back and forth. And I remember my father telling me like, "Oh, it's not that bad. It's only an hour," but when you're working 16, 17 hours a day, and you're getting paid 21,000 or 25, I don't even know what the hell it was. Not getting paid very much, and you're just grinding, man. You're like, this is what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be a college basketball coach. That was my goal, and I just wasn't feeling it. And I finally looked in the mirror, and I said, well, I guess I better grow up and get the hell out of Myrtle Beach, because Myrtle Beach can wear on you. And it was really hard to get a PE teaching job in Myrtle Beach, because at that time, getting a teaching job in Myrtle Beach is what everybody wanted. So I went on PECentral.com. I found a teaching job. I found an AAU program up in Northern Virginia. I went up and they offered me the teaching job. And, and what I said is, I'm not taking this teaching job unless I can find a basketball job. Well, Paul VI had just had an opening and talked to some people, and they said it was a really good job. And I went and interviewed and did know one person in Fairfax, Virginia. Went in and interviewed twice. They never showed me the gym. They told me that it was getting a new one built. I interviewed with 12 people. A majority of them were parents. And the next thing you know, they offered me the job. So I packed my stuff up in Myrtle Beach and moved to Northern Virginia, where I didn't know one person at all. And that was August of 2002. And that's where I've been ever since. I mean, there was I actually left in 2000. A lot of people don't know this story. I actually left in 2005 to take a Division II job of Converse College in
in South Carolina,
Spartanburg, South Carolina. It was an all-girls school, all-women college. And I resigned my teaching job and I resigned my coaching job. And I was about 2 weeks on the job before they actually offered me my contract. They showed me what my contract was. The human resources director said to me, "Why are you coming here? Are you using this as a stepping zone? If you are, don't, because it's just, wherever you're coming from." So she was incredibly direct and honest with me. And then she was like, "You need to go get that job back." That's the human resources director at this college telling me this. So that kind of freaked me out a little bit. And I had a moment of clarity. And then I called my athletic director and I called my principal from both schools. And they said, "You're more than welcome to come back. We haven't filled the position." I resigned a job that I never really signed my contract for and went back to Fairfax after being gone for about 2 months, not even 2 months, but a month. And I've been here ever since.
Coach, you made a reference to tape exchange. Were those the days where you were still taking the tape from the VCR and handing them? Yep, exactly.
Yeah, you stacked them and you had to figure out how to put the cords the right way and which one was recording and which one wasn't. And they had a rule in the Big South where everybody had to get 2 tapes on, a team. And then that's actually how I got in touch with Vanderbilt, because I was doing tape exchange with the Vanderbilt staff. And I asked them about their camp. And because I wanted to go work Don Meyer's camp, which you didn't get paid to work down Coach Meyer's camp. You just went because you wanted to be a coach. And the camp Coach Meyer ran was just as important for coaches as it was for players. I mean, it was unbelievable from 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. I mean, it was just a coaching clinic every single day. And I met so many amazing people and just loved, I wanted to be him, and that's kind of how it all went down from there. I mean, I drove all over the country working basketball camps and making connections and being here and being there. And I tried to get, once I dipped my toe into the college situation, I realized that I didn't want to go back, and I've just been at high school ever since. There's been, a couple different opportunities that college coaches have come to me and offered me a couple different jobs. And I just, I enjoy what I do now. I get my, once the season's over, I go to the beach. I don't have to go recruiting or anything like that. So it's been fun.
Coach, you've had an incredible run to this point at St. Paul's. Share with us a little bit about some of your philosophy principles. Like, what are the things that really ground you in the work that you're doing, and how you've been able to grow and build and sustain this program?
Well, it all starts with the word team. I mean, it's an old saying, together everyone achieves more. And the way I was brought up how to play is, this is a team sport, and you're going to play together as a team, and you're going to be unselfish, and you're going to play incredibly hard. We're going to play smart. We're going to play together. My high school coach is a legend, Bob Prenovo, and that's the way we played. We would grind it out basketball. Everybody touched it. The ball got moved from side to side, and we all played as a team together. And, we never cared who got the credit. And that was kind of the philosophy. And Coach Meyer was the same way at Lipscomb. It was all about the team, all about the team, all about the team, all about the team. And, I kind of took that philosophy as I wanted to build a culture of something that was special, and special meaning that we're going to play as one. We're going to play together. We're going to have a lot of fun doing it. But there was a certain way when people watched us play, I wanted them to leave the gym saying that team really plays well together. They share the ball, they move the ball, they defend as one, they play together, they have fun. And they just really play so hard that even when they lose, they win. And we wanted our kids, our players to be, use basketball as an opportunity for them to gain life experience about responsibility and dedication and discipline and how to treat another and how to just represent our program out in public. If they were at McDonald's or if they're at the mall or if we're walking in the gym, we all dressed the same. We made sure the locker room was in better shape than what it was when we left it. And that's kind of how my philosophy was. And, you just try to ingrain it into your players that, this isn't just about you, it's about all of us. And you've got to be together on this. And the more we're together, rowing in the same direction, the better that we can be.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So obviously all of your players, they're students first. So how do you instill the importance of academics in such a competitive program?
Academics is the priority. Basketball is the privilege. It's that simple. We are one of the best high schools in the entire country. We're a college prep school. Amazing atmosphere and academic standards. When you come to Paul VI, and I say this to everybody because I've been there so long, you are going to get everything out of yourself that you possibly can. The teachers are there to challenge you. They're there to pick you up when you get knocked down. But when you go to college, you are incredibly prepared. We don't do study halls because our kids understand that their priority is the academic side. If they don't take care of their priority, they don't get their privilege. Our kids are the teachers at PVI are just incredible. The culture that is there, pride, values, and integrity they stay behind to offer assistance when it's needed. I think we are probably the top program or one of the top programs over the last 23 years that I've been there of having the highest GPA. Like I don't ever remember, I don't know how long ago it was that we've ever had a kid in academic trouble. I mean, it just doesn't happen and it's not easy. It's incredibly challenging their day. I mean, it's a long day because it's not like you're, Susie and Joe that you grow up with ever since kindergarten, you just automatically go to high school with because that's your hometown school. I mean, I've coached players that live an hour and a half away from Fredericksburg, Virginia to West Virginia to, Upper Marlboro, Maryland, and they're coming 2 hours on, the metro or a bus or something just to come to the school. But the sacrifice that you get of coming to Paul VI is just, I mean, it's incredible what the future that they can have academically, and the amount of players that we've had that have come through our school that just have succeeded. I mean, there hasn't been a player that I've coached that has graduated from PBI that hasn't graduated from college. I mean, just hasn't happened. So it's something that is our number one priority at PBI. We understand that academics is number one, their priority. Number two, athletics is their privilege. And we don't even have to talk about it because everybody already knows it.
That's terrific. Coach, you've obviously been in the game a long time and led now, of course, for many years in the women's game and the girls' game, the high school level as well. How do you feel like the game has evolved, and where do you see there being opportunities for it to go next?
It's a funny. The first thing that comes to my mind is somebody said this to me the other day. Name 3 men's college basketball players from the NCAA tournament, and then name 3 women's basketball players from the NCAA tournament. It's funny when you ask that question to a lot of people, it's a lot easier to name the women's than it is the men's, because I've seen the popularity of the game grow. They always say the women's game is below the rim. And the opportunity of, it's chemistry, it's connection, it's moving the ball from one side of the floor to the other. And I've watched the women's game and how, just how exciting it is to watch, and, going to the Final Fours ever since I've been here, and how it's grown. And now you just see these superstars. And now I think people are starting to realize what an unbelievable game it is on the women's side now. I mean, like Caitlin Clark's playing in DC tonight. I mean, they had to move the game to, what is the Verizon Center or whatever it's called, because they needed, 30,000 more seats because it's a sellout. You know what happened the other day? Like, you look at the Indiana Fevers playing at home at the same time the Colts are playing on the road, and the Indiana Fever game is sold out. That doesn't happen majority of the time, but I'm just excited to see girls basketball be put at the top level, because it just is such a great game, and it's a lot of fun coaching girls. But not only is it a lot of fun, but there's some of the best coaches. I don't care what sport they are, or men or women, are women's basketball coaches. I mean, who's more successful than Gino Auriemma? I mean, you got to put a pedestal of coaches up there. He's got to be on it somewhere.
Sure.
So I just think the game has grown so much. It's great to see somebody like a Caitlin Clark come on the scene and just really ignite what was already there. And I just think it's really helped the popularity of the sport, but I also think it's gained an incredible amount of respect of what people have been missing on how great the games are to watch, because I've heard it before. People are like, well, I don't want to go watch women's basketball because that's like watching paint dry. Have you really watched it? If you're a really basketball fan, have you seen how the ball moves? Have you seen how people move? Do you see how hard they play? And I just think it's we're in a very, very special time right now, especially being in girls high school basketball, girls youth basketball, college basketball. It's just, it's awesome to see.
So you've created multiple showcases that provide significant exposure for young athletes. What inspired you to start these events?
Opportunity. I saw there wasn't a lot of opportunities around here for girls that I saw. I mean, I spend pretty much almost every single day on the phone or in contact with college coaches, and they're always looking. The area that we're in right now, DMV, is, I don't care there's no better basketball land than our area right now for players on the men's and women's side, girls or boys high school basketball. But I felt I wanted to provide an opportunity for these players that, not everybody plays on the best AAU team. Not everybody has been seen on the AAU circle. Not everybody knows who so-and-so is. They just didn't have the exposure. So I wanted to provide an opportunity for these players to be seen. And, thankfully that I had some college coaches connections and that had watched our program in the past. And we just decided to put together the first one that I'll never forget, getting a phone call from one of my friends who was a college coach saying, "Hey, do you know that the NCAA allows college coaches to come to open gyms after the NCAA tournament for 3 days?" I was like, "No." He's like, "You should put together an open gym." So we put together this open gym, and we had like 60 high school players in it. And I would probably say out of those 60 players, 7 of them were in the WNBA. And we had 5 or 6 college coaches come, and we organized it as an open gym. And the college coaches told me, they're like, "Whatever you do, don't tell anybody about this, because we don't want anybody else to come." So then we came up with the idea that we're going to have a college showcase in July. We started the DC Metro College Showcase. We took 120 kids on a night that there's USJNs, which ran in DC, which is the most popular event towards the end of the recruiting period. Well, when that ended that day, that's when we had it at night. The first year we did it, I think we had 80 kids, and we bumped it to 120. Anywhere from 60 to 80 college coaches came, and the amount of scholarships and college opportunities that those players got out of that showcase for the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, I have people still that I see out now that are in their 30s that thank me all the time for putting that together, because they would have never seen these kids, and that means a lot to me, giving it an opportunity, because once again, what's the whole goal? You get back to the game. Like, I would never be where I am today if I didn't, start playing basketball in 5th grade, or, come across some unbelievable coaches, or have an opportunity at Coastal Carolina at 19 years old, and I wouldn't be here. So I think the ultimate goal is to get back to the game. And, we came up with a really good showcase, and then we built it into the Art Turner Memorial, which is now probably the top event in it's December 6th through the 8th this year. We'll have anywhere from 60 to 90 college coaches, and it's all on one court. Some of the, we've had the number 1 ranked team in the country, I think, for the last 5 years. So it's packed again this year, but it started in 2008 as a 4-team event where it was just like a little tournament. And then we built it into more of a showcase where you can play 1 game or 2 games or 3 games, and people are knocking down the doors to try to come play. So you try to do things the right way. You try to treat people the right way. You try to over deliver and undercharge, and make sure that you run at a first class event. And, you want to make sure that you do everything you can to provide an opportunity for a kid that maybe has never had an opportunity before. And those things mean the world to me, because everybody knows the top players, but I want to find a kid that nobody knows about, that didn't get a chance in AAU or couldn't play AAU. And who the hell is that kid? Like, we have that all the time. And just to, we've had that happen a lot with some of my players, is they didn't know who this kid was until they played with us, or they played in the Art Turner, or they played in the showcase. And the next thing you know, the kid's got a D2 scholarship, or a D3, going to a D3 school, or has got a D1 program offering them a full ride. So those are the cool things about, first started it, because we were kind of the only show in town. Now there's 9,000 of them. We've been very fortunate, and it doesn't go without having an amazing staff too. I mean, you got to takes a lot to put those things together. And like I said, you always want to do it the right way. You don't want to ever feel like, I never wanted to feel like anybody came to my event and felt they didn't get what they were promised. Like, I've always had that. I wanted to make sure that, it was a quality event, not a quantity event. A quality event was the most important thing for me.
Sure. So you just were talking obviously about opportunity and getting players the space and the place to have opportunity. We think about a player's journey today, and you think about player development and where, what that path should look like. And you're thinking about working with young players and high schoolers and getting them to that place. What are some of the things that you prioritize, right, when you're thinking about developing players? And if you were to identify or share 3 or 4 things that you feel like really are critical in helping a player grow in their game. Listen, there are lots of hours and skills and IQ. There's a long list, but if there's probably some central themes as you're thinking through player development and helping players grow in their game, what are those things from your perspective?
Well, we actually have the conversation every day. It's just like, there's 2 things you never want to coach. And if you can find the player that you don't have to coach their attitude and you don't have to coach their effort, I'm going to show you a player that can play at the college level. I mean, that is the bottom line. Like, they've got to be where their feet are. When they come into the gym, we tell them you got to be where your feet are. And, you can just tell, I can tell, because I've been doing it so long, a kid that's incredibly driven, that just wants to get better, that's not playing because their uncle played or their aunt played or their parent played or they're being forced to play. I think, you find out a lot about a player before practice even starts. I think one of the things that frustrates me is, it's, you want the kids to have fun, and it's supposed to be fun because it's a game. But I mean, I say this all the time. Are you a girl that plays basketball, or are you a basketball player? And you have a lot of these kids that have aspirations. They want to go play at college, or they want to get a scholarship, or they want this and they want that. It's not easy. It's not that easy. You just don't, knock on the door of Brenda Fries at Maryland and say, "Hi, I'm here. I played at Ball 6. I'm here." And she's like, "Who the hell are you?" And, but you got to have an incredible work ethic. Like I tell our players all the time, we try to make practices harder than games. And so the games seem easy, but they're never easy with our schedule. But I just think you just instill in them, like, I'm not their friend. I'm their coach. And my job is, if you're going to tell me that these are your goals, and your standards have to be like, there's no, day 30 is supposed to be better than day 29. Day 73 is supposed to be better than day 72. Like, if you want to go play at the college level, and if you want to have a really good team and you want to leave a legacy with us, you understand that, and you bring it every single day. There's going to be times where you have a bad day. I mean, the running joke with us is, well, let's watch Coach Allen walk in the gym and hopefully he's smiling, because that means we're going to have a good practice. But he comes in and he had a bad day because he had, 7 classes in a row, and the last one was a kindergarten class. Could be a long practice that day, but I tell the players they're in control of those things. I don't want to coach your attitude. I don't want to coach your effort. And those are the best players that there are. I mean, and you get to a point in time now in this day and age where, you don't have any explosion cards like you used to. I mean, you got to coach everybody differently. You got to find what makes them tick. You got to find how you can pull every ounce of energy out of them. You got to find how you can build their confidence, where I tell them, you're going to think this is where your ceiling is, and I'm going to think it's much higher. And that's my job to get you there. But you got to have an unbelievable work ethic that the coach doesn't have to be in control of. And you got to have an unbelievable attitude of, you're going to try to make the person next to you better. And you're going to try to make this the best team that you can, and understand that, you have an impact no matter if you play 32 minutes or if you don't play. You have an impact because you're a part of a team, regardless if it's, one of the most impactful players I've ever had on my team. She probably played the least amount of minutes. We were 33-1. We lost one game by 1 point in the entire season. And this kid was one of the best leaders we ever had. And she played the least amount of minutes on the team as a senior, but she was probably the most impactful player that we had on that team, because she wasn't going to let anybody slip. And she would tell them when they come off the court, "Don't you think I want your minutes?" And she did, but she would make sure, and they all listened to her, and she did it in such a great way. But I just think those are the qualities that you have to have when you step between the lines. You got to be where your feet are. You got to be ready to go. And we try to make our practices that way, where I don't have to. Somebody told me this a long time ago. The start of your practice should be about them. So the first 3 things or 4 things that we do, they have a time, they have a score, and I'm not the jerk. If they do a drill one day and they're supposed to get, 30 layups in 2 minutes, and they get 34 the first day, and then the next day they get 22 because they're tired or they just didn't feel like doing it, I'm not the bad guy. They made the decision to come in, and that was their effort. So it's on them. And you work with them on how to. We did actually had this conversation with some of our players today on how to lead. And the way I framed it to them was, picture how you would want somebody to talk to you to make you go better. And that kind of stuck with them. But, I just think once they understand that they're in control of that, and if they can get that and figure that out, regardless if it's, 2 minutes on the floor or 20 seconds on the floor or 20 minutes on the floor, just leave it on out on the court.
I mean, you've had so many players come through your program. Could you share with us some stories of players that have either inspired you, I mean, in basketball or even in life?
Yeah, I can tell you right now, the first one that always comes to my mind is Tamisha Williams. And she when I got the job here in 2002, she was a senior. And she was incredibly talented. But nobody had really understood her. And, she had an amazing family, but she came from, a different background than a lot of the other players. And I think nobody really understood her and understood, what her daily life was like. And her and I had an unbelievable connection, and she was an incredible player. When our season was over with and we won the state championship, I was like, I've got to get this kid a scholarship because she's got to go to college. And I emailed, this is 2003, and like April, I emailed a bunch of college coaches. We got a junior college coach that came back to me. The only time that she probably was on time the entire year was when me and, a buddy and another, actually a boys player, and we went down to a school in West Virginia. She worked out. They offered her a 2-year scholarship on the spot. She went there for 2 years. She graduated from there, went to Radford on a full scholarship, graduated with a master's degree in 3 years, and now is a government employee. So and her mother would call me every Christmas to thank me. And that's the first story that always comes to my mind. And I don't know what the connection is here with Radford. And there was another story of there was a former player, Devin Fitzsimmons, who a tough kid, one of the toughest kids we've ever had. And, she came to Paul VI, and she decided that academics wasn't going to be very important to her. And we had a little meeting with the academic dean, the principal, which was the coolest thing. It was her and her father and her grandmother. And here's these, our school, there's 1,200 people in the school. And here's every administrator sitting in this meeting room with this kid telling her, like, we're here to help you, but you got to help yourself. Oh, she snapped out of it. She ended up, and I'll never forget this. She graduated. She won a state championship. I think she won 2. And, I heard from her every now and then, and my wife I don't know where the hell I was. I was driving somewhere, and she sent me a text message. She says, "Hey, Coach Allen," she sent me a picture of her graduating. She said, "Just want to let you know, I graduated from Radford today. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here." Cause there was times where, she had it pretty rough. And, but those stories like that, they mean a lot to me. And there's been a lot of them in the last several years about helping kids, even kids I don't even coach. I mean, I've known them when they came to my camp, and they may not have gone to my high school, or, they need help with college coaches. And, I might know a coach that needs a kid, and they end up, helping the kid out. I mean, those stories mean a lot to me. But I think the greatest thing is when they come back and they work camp, or they come back and see coach, and they call me soft and tell me I'm old, I'm soft, and what the hell happened to you? They thought they were watching somebody else. But that's why I coach. I really do. I mean, I think that's the greatest gift of coaching players, is to see what a team can do when they come together, but also when they come back and they finally understand why you're so hard on them, and you wouldn't ever let them, just take a day off. So those are the stories that mean the most to me. And there's a lot of them. I mean, there's just a lot of them, I just ran into a former player of mine from 1996, and we were up back at home, and he was on my JV team. I was 21 years old, and he was a freshman and sophomore in high school, and farm boy, would get up at 4:00 in the morning and work on his family's farm. And one of the toughest kids I've ever coached, didn't say very much, just tough as nails, and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. And he was a good player. I probably hadn't seen him since then. And I saw him at Devil's Bowl the other day, and my father was talking to him, and he said to him, he says, and my father tried to introduce me to him, and he says, "Well, he was my basketball coach in high school." So that's a really cool story too. That's why you do it. Those are fun little stories when you think you don't want to do it anymore, and you come across a player that You may have helped them a little bit to be where they are. I mean, I think that's what all my coaches did for me. And that was one thing they told me: you got to get back to the game. And you don't do it because you want the accolades for it or anything like that. You do it because you care. I mean, you want to see them succeed, and any player that comes out of Paul VI, I want them to go to the college level and be, and I want them, all the coaches, to be like, oh, that's a Paul VI kid right there. We can tell.
Yep. Coach, there's so much discussion, and I'm sure you hear it and see it and ponder it yourself about, things being different today, right? Kids are different. Situations are different. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've got this knucklehead on the call with me here. And so, she, I don't think we force her to be in the gym, but she likes to be there. But, it feels like there are differences today than there were maybe 20 years ago, but it might just be the different distractions, and those distractions are a little bit more present. But what's your perspective, right? As you think about someone who's leading in sport and mentoring and coaching young people, are things different? Are there just different challenges, but what we're trying to overcome are all the same things by and large? What's your take on that?
I think your approach has to be different. I don't think players are any different. I think your approach has to be different to how you coach them. I'm still as demanding as I've ever been. You ask the 8 players that were in the gym with us today. I told them, I said, I'm not your friend, I'm your coach, and I'm not going to allow you to slip. I'm not any less demanding. I'm just different in my approach, and I'm different in my delivery of getting to understand. And I think, you got to figure out different ways. You got to figure out different ways to keep the same standards that you always had, but you might have to have a different approach of how you do it, and once again, I think back in the day, I coached everybody the same way. I think now your ultimate job is to figure out what makes that, because at the end of the day, what do you want? Do you want a better player, or do you want a better player? I want a better player. I want a more confident player. I want an improved player. I want a kid that's high energy. I want a kid that has a ton of enthusiasm and plays so hard and is like the Energizer Bunny, but they're just, their confidence is so high, and you got to figure out a way to do that. My standards are still the same. They are. Like, I'm going to let you know when I don't think you're playing hard, but the way I let them know it is probably a lot different than when I used to let them know it. And that's why they call me soft. But once again, you have to change your approach. I mean, the standards are still the same. What I want out of a player is still the same. What I want out of a team is still the same. Are there distractions that are totally different? Absolutely. But that's not an excuse. It's an opportunity to figure out a different way to do it. And maybe it's an opportunity to figure out a different way to do it better than what you used to do it. And I think the people that are figuring out a way to keep the same standards, but to do it a different way and maybe a better way, are the ones that are winning and that people want to play for.
Perfect. Thank you.
So looking back on your career playing and coaching, what are some of the most memorable games or seasons that still stand out to you?
1996, 1997. Fairhaven Slaters, going to Berry Auditorium. I was having this conversation with the kid I was just telling you about. In 1997, we played the JV team, and I thought, I treated it like I was coaching Duke. But that was my team. It was my team. They were my kids. They were my team. And guess what? They were the most important team in the world to me because it was my team, and that was my job. And I treated it that way. And I learned so much coaching JV basketball, because you may only have practice for 45 minutes, and you can have all the best drills in the world, but you only got 45 minutes to figure it out. And we played in a JV tournament over at this place in near Rutland, Vermont, and Mill River. And it was a JV tournament, and we were down 6 points with 8 seconds to go, and people were leaving the gym, and we tied it at the buzzer and went into overtime and won. One of the most memorable games. We were down, I'll never forget it. We were down 6 points with 8 seconds left and won. We got fouled shooting a 3 with 8 seconds left, and hit a couple free throws, missed the last free throw. The ball went out of bounds. We were down 5 with 7 seconds left. We ran an inbounds play. We hit a 3 in the corner, and all the other team had to do was hold the ball. They decided to inbound it. They threw it in. My kid stole it and shot it. This kid, I don't think had ever made a jump shot, even in warmups. And Michael Heitkamp, I'll never forget the shot. It was on the right side of the court near the elbow, and he banked it in. And we went into overtime and we won. And that was, I'll never forget that. It was pretty crazy. That's 1997. I was 21 years old. I mean, that's, hell, I don't even know what's that, 28 years ago. I don't even know what that was. But I can remember that game like it was the other day, and I guess probably the other most memorable one that we've had is the first year that, when you play in the WCAC that we play in, it's the number 1 league in the entire country. And BVI had never even been to the finals. Well, we had a really good team, and it was an unbelievable year, and we ended up winning the WCAC, and the fans stormed the court. It was, it was one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life. And that team was just so special. We went on to win a state championship, and we ended up winning 3 conference titles in a row, and we won 3 state titles in a row, and we just had it really rolling, and it was fun. I mean, it was just fun. Like it was, you had a great group, and the 2016 team that we had, 2015, when we were 33-1. I mean, we had 6 Division I players on that team, but I mean, they never had a bad day at practice. And I'll never forget, I was sitting in the office, and they came into me, and they were pissed off because some of the players weren't wearing the right gear, and they didn't know what to do. And I was laughing at them because at the beginning of the year, they wanted to take control of the team. So I handed them my keys. I said, you go ahead and drive the bus. I'll provide the roadmap, but just understand, if you want control, if you want to, I want a player-led team, go ahead. But there's going to be times. Well, they wanted to handle it like I did. So they were just going to, Coach Allen, they came in, they're like, you need to make us run the next practice. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because we have players that aren't wearing the right gear. And I said, okay, that's not a problem. So we did. And the kids kept doing it. And they got the point because they finally realized that they were handling the situation like they thought I would have handled it. And I said, you need to handle this situation how you would want it handled if it was you. And they really got that point. So that was a cool memory. And I think we won, I don't know, I think we won something like 47 consecutive. I don't even know if it was that many. It was pretty close. Like we won so many league games in a row. I mean, it was just insane how we had it going. But once again, you had a really good staff, and we had a really good team, and players that you didn't have to. I mean, those kids never had a bad practice. I mean, never did, and never did. Like I never had to get on them or throw them out of the gym, or I mean, I was looking for any reason to, but it never happened. So there's been a lot of really, really good ones. I mean, I think you remember, as any coach says, you remember the losses. Probably you remember more than sometimes the wins, but I just think it's the greatest memories for me are watching players get so excited after a great win. They're not pissed off because they only played 2 minutes, or they didn't get enough touches or whatever. They were just all about it. They didn't care. They understood their impact. So those are, I could go through. I mean, we won 16 consecutive state titles. And I can tell you one that sticks out to me, and the girls now, she was one of the lead anchors for CBS News. She worked for the Clippers. I mean, she was the biggest pain in the butt. They always told me, once you get that player that can turn your program into a national level program, well, we got it with Ariana Freeman. she was a pain, and she would be the first one to tell you I threw her out of practice more times. I think she was out of practice more than she did practice. But she got it, right? She got it by her senior year, and she went on to play it. But her freshman year, we were down at Benedictine, this old field house. We're playing in the state championship game. She forgot her uniform, so she had her wrong number. We were down 2 points. The kid missed a free throw. We got fouled at the buzzer, and Ariana had to go to the foul line, and they cleared the entire court. She was the only one on the foul line. It was 0.0, and we were down 2. And she had to make both free throws to put it into overtime, and she made both of them, and we won in overtime. And that kind of continued our streak going forward. And there was a lot of close ones where everybody thinks, oh, we're just going to walk through the state tournament. Well, we lost this year for the first time, and it really gains your appreciation of the fact of what you did. And those games weren't easy. I mean, we won by 1. We won at close to the buzzer. We won in overtime. I mean, those are some really cool memories for sure. The bus rides on the way back, like nobody ever wanted to ride the bus on the way back. Cause if we lost, I blared country music and they hated it. That was my torture. Right. But after we would always win the state championship, all the kids would ride the bus home, and it was that, those are fun memories. Those are really cool memories for sure.
Coach, we really appreciate you taking some time with us to talk about the game. Obviously a tremendous amount of experiences and successes and impact on young people. We're also, as you acknowledged earlier, in a really special time in the game, probably the most exciting time, the most visible time in the game of the women's game, the girls' game. What is needed, right? Like what does the game need today to keep it moving? What are the ways people could make an impact? Like what, if anything, in your mind could be added to help this thing keep moving?
It's a great question. The first thing on the top of my head is genuine people. Don't use the game because it's popularity right now. I think anybody can be important because they have an internet connection and somebody that does rankings or evaluators or whatever it is. That I just think it really is an opportunity right now to have, as a coach, you have a great opportunity to really be impactful of helping players get to the next level, because you have this thing called the transfer portal, which, is completely out of control. You can identify a kid right now that's going to be a transfer portal kid. I can identify a kid that I see play at a different high school, or, just I see play all the time. I think just the overall consistency of, just a genuine love for the game. I think there's so many trainers and there's so many different things that are going on that these kids have now. They'll go to this trainer, they'll go to that trainer, they'll go to this trainer, they'll go work out here. I just think genuine people that actually care about making sure that they're doing it for the right reasons. They're not doing it to get a pat on the back or for a college coach to recognize them or for them to be on social media and everybody pats them on the back. I think it's an opportunity right now where you really love the game and you love working with players and you want to see them succeed. Do it. I think the mental aspect of the game is an incredibly important part right now. Mm-hmm. I think the more these players have so many distractions, there's a lot of pressure on them. I mean, what are the odds of a player getting a college scholarship to go to college for free? I think there's a ton of pressure. And I think, the more that we can address the mental aspect of it, to how to build tools. Like we hired, I have a mental performance coach, and best thing that's ever done in my life. I wouldn't be here talking to you if I didn't start working with, Stu Singer a long time ago, or a guy like, Brian Levinson years ago. But, Stu and I really have built a connection, and he has really helped me because I had to change. the way I coached, because you just couldn't live in your own skin, no matter what you were ranked in the country. You know, you had to figure out a different, when you win a big game and you drive home at night and you're thinking to yourself, why the hell did I say that to that kid? And you might have just beat the number one team by 20 and you're ranked second in the country and you're supposed to be this, and you have to figure out a way to make things better. And I think if people can look in the mirror and just, you know, address the fact that there's a lot going through these kids' heads, and, you know, sometimes you just have to be able to step outside your comfort zone and learn a little bit more of how you can help these players. Because even though it's the most important thing in your day to go to practice, it may not be for them, or you never know what's going on. And so I think just understanding, you know, it's not just about the fact that they got a great crossover, they can shoot it from 30, or, you know, they got the best post moves in the world, but it's what are the tools that you can help when they don't succeed, or they miss a free throw, or they miss a layup, or, you know, how to handle situations where, you know, they may need somebody to help them deal with the stress of every day. So I think that's one of the most things that has to be addressed in the game. And I think you can see it every single day if you turn on the news or you read these articles about players coming out about, you know, how they just felt like they couldn't play the game anymore because mentally they just couldn't focus. So I think that's one of the most needed things I think in the game right now, is to address not only the physical aspect. Yeah, you want a quicker, stronger, more physical conditioned athlete that has a better jump shot than they did as a sophomore, you know, going into their junior year. But I think you got to try to figure out a way to give them a skill set. How do they deal when they fail? You know, what do they do? You know, how do they deal when things don't go their way? So I think, in my mind, that's really, really important. But I just think getting genuine people that care, you know, that generally care without, they're doing something for the kid without anything coming back to reward them except watching them succeed. So, you know, I think once again, anybody that has an internet connection now can be important. They can create all these different things and rankings and, you know, come work with me and I've got this connection, but are you using kids or not? And I think the mental aspect of addressing that, because like I said, do you want a better play or do you want a better player? You know, I always want a better player. Sure. There's a lot of great plays out there, but you always want the play don't work without a better player. So I think, you know, obviously how are you going to build the better player that you can is really important, especially now because there's so many different things with cell phones and social media, and more scholarships are lost on social media than there are earned. I'll tell you that. So I think those are things of identifying with these players of the right thing and the wrong thing and providing guidance. And I think that's why PVI is such a special place, because they do it all. I mean, they do it all. It's not easy, you know, but they do it all. They try to have the best, well-prepared students possible. If they're an athlete or they're not an athlete, it doesn't matter. You know, you want to overturn every rock to make sure that they have every tool that they can to succeed.
Well, Coach, really appreciate that. Really appreciate your time with us, and obviously grateful for you to take some time to step away from all that you have going on, running a program, teaching, working with kids in the evenings to talk the game with us. So if any final thoughts or questions for Coach while we got him on the line tonight?
No, that was awesome.
Yeah, terrific.
So what time will you be in the gym tomorrow morning, Sophie?
So I'm riding the bus tomorrow, right?
Yeah. There you go. So all right.
I'll probably wake up around 6. Yeah.
There you go. All right.
We just came out of a boot, Coach. She had a fracture in a fibula. Ooh. So we're just getting back into running.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm technically not allowed to run. I'm allowed to jog.
Jog, very good.
There you go. Well, I'm sure Dad's not running very much now anyways. He's probably just a jogger as it is. So, right.
Well, he's got to stay fit because after I'm out of the air cast, I'm playing him one-on-one. So he's got to be ready.
Easy now. He might just want to save that air cast. He might need it when you get done with him. No, in all honesty, I think what you guys are doing is incredible. I would invite anybody that listens to this to reach out and tell their story. I think the girls basketball game has gained so much momentum now, and there's so many incredible coaches that have great stories that just haven't been told. And, like I said, I'm just a small town kid from Fairhaven, Vermont, that was very fortunate to have incredible parents and friends and grow up in a great area that, I thought it was the biggest place there was. I didn't know any different. And, I was provided an opportunity for people that cared for me. And I think there's so many people out there right now. I can list 100 of them that deserve the opportunity to have their story told, that, have been doing a hell of a lot longer than I have, and probably been more successful than I have, and touched more lives. And just their story has never been told. And I think you guys providing a platform for people to be able to do that is awesome. So thank you guys for all your hard work, for sure. And I love being on.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you joining us and trusting in us to in sharing your story. We want to keep doing this work. We have, bigger plans for what we're hoping to do with a nonprofit we're hoping to get off the ground this year, which is all going to be about opportunity for young people. And so we appreciate you. Got 2 new PVI fans. You don't need any more PVI fans, probably, but
we need them.
We're going to be really excited to follow y'all this year.
I'll send you some gear up for sure. So you got to be a Nike. You got to be a Nike fan now. So we're fortunate to be sponsored by Nike. So I'll definitely make sure that. So if you get the best gear, and I'll just send Dad like a pair of socks or something. So.
You can sign the
socks.
You can sign the Aircast for me later, Coach, when I'm hobbling into the gym in the morning. But thanks so much, Coach.
We'd love to have you guys. We're not that far away, so don't hesitate to come on up to the Art Turner. We'd love to have you, and it'd be my pleasure to have you guys, and appreciate all you do.
Sounds great. Coach, have a great evening. We'll talk to you.
All right. Thanks. Have a good night.
You too. Wow, folks. Not sure what else to say. We're really fortunate to have had the opportunity to have Coach Allen join us for this week's episode on Keys to the Gym. But PG, I'm going to let you kick things off here. We're going to do just a little debrief here and share some of our thoughts and feedback and some things that stood out to us with regard to the things that we heard from Coach Allen on this week's episode. But PG, why don't you get us started? What are some things for you that really stood out as we listened to and had an opportunity with Coach Allen this week?
I couldn't list everything that he said. That was awesome. But there's 3 main things that I thought really stood out to me. The first thing was when he said academics is the priority and basketball as the privilege. You're going to school to learn, and you're a student athlete, not an athlete student. So he was really harping on the importance of academics to his team and his players. And I thought that was really important. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree completely. He shared that story about a couple of players where it was clear, right? It was clear that their total experience at PVI was a difference maker for them. He talked about Tamisha Williams and Devin Fitzsimmons. He shared that story with us about the whole school leadership team coming together to ensure that player understood, like we're here for you, but you got to have some ownership in this process. And I think that's just such a good reminder and such a powerful message for anybody listening, anybody thinking about the role that athletics should play. Is that this has got to be a total experience. And it's clear from the level of consistency that they've been able to achieve that what they're doing in that program. And he said it, right? He said, he wants people to look and say, oh, that's a Paul VI kid, right? That's a PVI kid coming out of their program. And so you're right. I mean, athlete student first. But no, that's a great one. What else? What else stood out to you as it relates to some of the things from the conversation?
he said something, you have to be where your feet are. He talks about the importance of attitude and effort and how he as a coach didn't want to have to coach those two things. He didn't want to have to coach your attitude and your effort. Those two things were non-negotiables for him, which I completely agree with. Those are the two things that you can control when you play. So he talked about that for a while. And then he said, are you a girl that plays basketball or are you a basketball player? And I thought that blew my mind, honestly. I never thought about that before, but that stood out to me. What about you?
Yeah, so those things were great. There were a couple of other things, and he talked about it right at the top. And he said, team, right? Together, everyone achieves more. And I mean, like, folks, if you go and do your due diligence, we obviously didn't get into every single player that he's had there. He just shared a couple of unique stories. These were examples of stories that certainly it had an impact on him. But I mean, they've had some players. And to get players who have gone on to have great careers and great lives, getting people to consistently buy into what it is they're trying to achieve. What they accomplished is not an accident, right? What they've been able to accomplish is not an accident. And the incredible amount of consistency at a high level, right? We talked about this concept a while back. The ceiling and the floor, they're not too far apart. And you don't do that without your players being willing to buy into what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And it's clearly way more than just the game of basketball. So that was something, this team, everything is about the team. And it's just a good reminder. And here's someone who, again, is at one of the, is built, I should acknowledge that he's built this program into one of the leading programs in the country, but also at a school where academics is clearly a priority. So that was something that stood out to me.
Yeah, he said, talking about team, whether you play 32 minutes or you sit on the bench, you have an impact on the team. And he had this player, his best leader as a senior. She played the least amount of minutes in her senior year, but he thought she was the most impactful player during that season because she was just such a leader. And she kept saying, like, you don't think I want your minutes? She kept everyone in line. I thought that was amazing.
There were two other, I agree with you, that absolutely as well. There were two other themes that I think bear repeating, and anybody who's listening, I really encourage you to think about the perspective, impression that you're leaving. And one of the things was, he started talking, I forget exactly which question, but coach got going a little bit and started talking about he can spot a player who's going to be a transfer portal kid. And that was really interesting. It was, to me, subtle, but in some ways, there are behaviors and habits that he feels like at this moment in time, he can see and would project that player is going to be someone who's never going to be where their feet are, to use his line. And that's just something that, unfortunately, I think, it would be great if we could find a solution for, and would challenge anybody in the game, players, families, to really acknowledge what is most important. And everybody has their own reasons. We talked about intrinsic and extrinsic motivators several episodes ago. But here's someone who, again, is leading in the women's game, and is acknowledging that that's a real concern, and acknowledging that it's something that it becomes evident and obvious. And then the last thing, and I asked Coach, one of the last questions I think we asked, I think it was the last question. I said, what does the game need today? Right. We're at the height. We're at a place where the women's game, the girls' game of basketball is at its peak. We just had, as we did our interview with Coach, we were heading into the WNBA playoffs, right? We're heading into the WNBA playoffs, and ticket prices are through the roof, right? And so, but everything, there's just so much more visibility and attention being paid to the game. It's a great game. But I asked him, I said, what is it that we need now? Like, what does the game need? And it was interesting, coach's response. And this struck me. I'm not sure I totally get it, but it struck me. And he said, we need more genuine people involved in leading this game of basketball, and in particular having an influence and impact on the game and on the women's game to continue to ensure that it moves in the right direction. And don't want to sound like this person, but I couldn't agree more. I think we need more people who are educators, mentors, people who are choosing to be involved, choosing to engage in the game because of the opportunity to impact young people and to impact the way the game can have an impact on people. So again, it's, call me a little nostalgic, I guess, but it was really neat to hear him acknowledge that was his perspective as someone who's certainly impacting the game from a variety of angles. But again, an incredible conversation. Any other parting thoughts? Any other final thoughts from you as we wrap up this week's session?
No, I think we covered everything. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it's the other thing, and you and I were talking about this leading up to this. This is about, it's just another example of building connections, building relationships, right? I hadn't met Coach Allen. We grew up though, probably an hour apart, hour and a half apart. My college basketball coach is someone that they're connected. So that's where the introduction happened. But it's a small world. And so it's really important that as we foster and build relationships, you just never know. You never know where something's going to lead. You never know what kind of connections you're going to make or how those connections might impact your own journey, your own story, your own life. And so I think it was another good reminder to all of us that give to it and it will give back. Right. And so, again, a terrific conversation. We hope you all enjoyed the opportunity to hear more about Coach Scott Allen from PVI. He definitely made 2 new PVI fans. We're excited to follow. And, but we hope to, and we're excited about bringing more guests in like Coach to share their stories and talk the game. So, all right, PG, let's sign it off and we'll see you guys again in a week.
Keys to the gym, unlocking our hearts. 3 generations, tearing courts apart. More than a game, it's in our blood. Keys to the gym, our families love. Our families love. And trophies gleaming on the shelf. Each one a story in itself. But true wealth's not in cups of gold. It's in the memories we hold. Keys to the gym, unlocking our hearts. 3 generations, tearing courts apart. More than a game, it's in our blood. Keys to the gym, our families love. Our families eternal.